Well, hello. My name is Jim Deranek. I am the Director of Admissions at the University of Arizona, Eller College of Management, and welcome. What I'd like to do today, what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about the 10 best actions to enhance your work experience and letters of recommendation. Now, these are two items that, a lot of times there's question on. Some people are unsure of, what they should use, what people they should ask as far as letters of recommendation, work experience, how is it calculated, what's good, what's bad, how do you record it, what is right for me. So what I'm going to try to do today is point out some points of exactly what admissions directors look at, how things are calculated, how you can improve upon these things. And then after the end of the session, I really encourage you to ask questions. If I wasn't clear, you had some specific situations. I'm also able to answer any questions you have regarding any other parts of the application process, just things that are maybe unclear to you. Because really the point of these sessions and my session today is to make sure you get a full understanding of the admissions process and to make sure you're well informed so you can present a great application. So let's get started. Work experience. Work experience is one of those items that, a lot of people talk about, the GMAT, the GPA, what it is. But work experience is very important in an MBA application. Now, let me tell you why, first of all, why it is important. A lot of people will say the MBA classroom, you learn three things. You learn equally from your professor who's teaching the class. You learn from your other classmates, which is where let me back up. You learn from the textbooks, and then you learn from your other classmates. And so when you're learning from your other classmates, that's where the work experience comes in, because we want people to be able to share their work experiences in the classroom and be able to share that with their classmates. And that's how you learn, from your classmates. So that's why it's something that is very important and valued, in the MBA world. So first of all, how is work experience calculated? That's it's a great question because, if you look at the profile from universities, you will see, 3.5 years work experience, 4 years work experience, 5 years, whatever. One important thing to do is always check out the profile of the schools you are applying for and look to kind of see what their average is. That can kind of tell you, around what they're looking for. Now remember, these are averages. That is not an absolute. That is not a minimum. That is not, something to be scared of. So what I encourage you to do always is check with the university, maybe, email the admissions counselor, let them know your situation and find out, what work experience is acceptable. How it is calculated, though, is it's the amount of years of full-time professional work experience that you have after you have received your undergraduate degree. Now, that is technically how we have to report it. That is technically how we have to calculate it. So that is what it means by work experience. So if you have 3.5 years work experience, that means you started working professionally 3.5 years after you have received your undergraduate degree. Now, this is a great question. A lot of people ask, well, how about my internships? How about, I worked while I was going to school. Well, that is definitely work experience that can be considered in an application that cannot be counted as work experience when we do our calculations. So that comes into play a lot. So what I would say is, as an admissions director, I look at all work experience. I look at what you have done. But as far as my calculation and what I have to do in reporting work experience may be different than what I look at. Military service is another item that is, depending where you live, what type of military service, again, is something, that is considered. It is very valued in a lot of, programs. We value military experience. Now, depending how and when you went into the military, if you went into the military, then exited the military, came back and got your undergraduate degree, we cannot technically count that as work experience, and again, because you have not received your undergraduate degree yet. However, if you have received your undergraduate degree, then went in the military, that is a different story. Regardless of the situation of what you are in, military experience is definitely something that is very valued and something that is considered, when we do look at an application. So do not hesitate to put that on your resume. Think about what you did in the military. What part, did you lead a team? Were you in charge of a budget? Try to think of it in a business sense, because there's a lot of leadership skills, business development, managing budgets, things like that are very much relevant to an MBA program, and things that military experience can definitely help you with in an application. Making an impression, is very, in a resume where you're talking about work experience, how you frame things is very important. If you say you led a team, if you managed a budget, that really does not tell me a lot about your work experience. What you need to do is really quantify everything on your resume if possible. So if you led a team, I want to know how many people were in the team. What was the outcome? What was your role? If you were managing a budget, I want to know what the dollars that were involved. Was it $200,000? Was it $2 million? That can make a huge difference on the scope of your work experience, because it's not always all about it's not always all about the titles. It's not always all about how many years. A lot of it's about the scope of work. So when you're going through your resume and you're talking about the things you have done, make sure you try to, you want to make an impression. So make sure you quantify as many things as you can. Always add dollars. If you were in sales and you were responsible for the eastern market of your company, how many sales dollars, did you account for? What percentage of revenue was that of the company? So give us as much information as you can about what you did and performed to identify the scope of your work. If you led a team, was it a team of 3 people? Was it a team of 10 people? What did it do? Did it save the company money? Did it increase volumes? So things like that can really help you in your resume when you're trying to make an impression with the admissions directors. Also, be selective in selecting your skills. Especially if you're a technical person, it's probably not necessary to list every single programming language you know. I mean, if you list some, that's fine. But those are the type of things, we understand if you're in a technical position, you are going to have knowledge in these areas. But letting us know every single item you have done to a detail is probably not to your benefit. Again, we're looking for those big action items. What did you do in those big action items that can help us understand what you bring to the table? Again, I'm going back to, what you're doing and telling us. Communicating your achievements. We're looking for, the action which you have done. Did you increase revenue? Did you decrease spending? Were you the evaluator in a project? So let us know exactly what you did. You want to give us as much information as possible in order to make a good decision. And the more you can communicate what you have done in your job and how it helped your company, or how it helped your career, how you helped other people, that is going to help. And again, quantify everything you do with numbers, because that really helps us determine the scope. All right, I'm going to move now into letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation are very interesting because there's something I don't think a lot of candidates take a lot of time to think about, and they really are a very important part of the admissions process. Not only from the part of who they're from, how they're framed, what they do, but it is something I think people just think, well, I know this person, I'm going to go ask them for a letter of recommendation. But there's a little more preparation I think everyone needs to do to be involved with that can really help sell their application. First of all, know who to ask. There's a lot of questions on this as far as do I ask a superior with a vice president title or a president title? Do I ask does an alumni help me? Who should I ask? Really, what we're looking for in a letter of recommendation is someone who knows you in a professional business environment that can speak to how you act in the business world. If you are asking a vice president of your company or the president of the company for a letter of recommendation and they do not know anything about how you work, anything about your work experience, what you do, they just have a title, that is not going to help your situation. Even if you're going to ask an alumni of the school that you're applying to, if you do not know that person does not work with you, they cannot speak to how you function in a business environment, that is not what we're looking for. We would prefer to get a letter of recommendation from your immediate supervisor. I know that is not always possible. Sometimes immediate supervisors, it's a little bit situation where they may not know exactly what you're doing. You don't want to tell them, and we understand that, so we know that's not always necessary. Maybe from a former position you can get your supervisor. Maybe you can get a client of yours that you deal with in a working environment that can talk about how you perform in a business environment. Maybe you can get someone who's a peer with you, at the program, at where you work. But someone who absolutely knows what you were like in a working environment. Again, we're not looking for the biggest title you can find, and not necessarily an alumni, unless these people can talk about your professional, work environment and how you handle situations. It's much better to get someone who knows how you work and can talk about you and how you perform better than a title or an alumni. One important thing to do is to meet with your recommenders, and we'll get into a little more detail on this. The worst thing you can do is just decide who you're going to ask for letters of recommendation, put their name down on the form, and all of a sudden they get an email pop up, asking for letters of recommendation. Surprise. This is something you need to take personal action with and personal involvement, and make sure you spend the time meeting with these people. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on what you can do. What you want to do is you want to absolutely share your story with them. Share your story and plans with the recommendations. You want to tell them what you want to do with this MBA. Why are you getting an MBA? What do you want to do with this MBA when you graduate? And I'll tell you a reason why. If you do not do this with a recommender, they really have no frame of reference on how they can recommend you. If you are going to business school and you want to go into marketing and you are currently in a finance position and you don't tell them that, we may get a recommendation saying what a great finance person you are and you'll be great in the finance world, and all of a sudden in your essays and your application you're telling us how you want to go into marketing. Well, there's definitely a disconnect there then. And it will not go well when we're reviewing your application, because we'll know right away that you didn't spend the time to talk with your recommender and let them know why you're going to this school, what you plan on studying, what you plan on doing with it. What it does is it helps them actually write the letter of recommendation better for you. Another thing to do is inform them about the school. Why are you choosing this school? What are you, what's your reasoning? Is there a specialization in this school that you want to do? Is there, are you choosing the school for their MIS program? Are you choosing the school for their entrepreneurship program or for marketing? Again, the more information you can provide, the the better off it will be for them. Because what you want to do is you want them to be fully informed of your decision, what you're studying, what your plans are, what your school choices are. Again, if you're going to school in the East Coast of the United States, if that's where you want to go, and they're talking about how you love the beach or whatever, you want to make sure you're in sync. You want to make sure your recommenders are in sync with you. What you want to do is you want to make it as easy as possible for them to give you a good recommendation. And by sitting down and talking with them, we'll do this. What I highly recommend is, take your recommenders, take them out to breakfast, take them out to lunch, have coffee with them, sit with them, spend the time with them, and make sure that they understand fully, that you want them to be a recommender, understand fully where you are going to school, why you are going there, what your plans are for after. Because if you do that, it will make it very easy for them to write a great letter of recommendation for you. And that way, when we read your application, it will also make it easier, for us to know that you have done that, and to understand that, there's a full understanding of why they're going to school with them. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to open it up for questions. Now, the topics today we talked about work experience and letters of recommendation. I would be happy to take any of these questions that you have regarding these topics, but also any questions regarding the application process or MBA admissions that you have. So I am here to help you through the process, and I would want to keep you as informed as possible. I have one question here. We have a question. What is the average GMAT score for admissions and for scholarships, if any? That is really going to be a school-specific question, because there is not a specific score for GMAT and or for scholarships. Every school is going to be different. And usually for scholarships, I can talk specifically about the University of Arizona. Ours are all merit-based scholarships. So it's all based on, what you do merit. So GMAT, GPA, again, work experience, letters of recommendation. We look at the entire package when we are awarding scholarships, and they're all merit-based. So, depending on the school, it may be different things. So we just have to, you have to consider that. So obviously, the stronger the application, the more chance you have for a merit scholarship. Good question here. Who do you get a letter from if you're self-employed? If you're self-employed, you're not working for someone. You don't have a boss. What I would do if you're self-employed is you would get a letter from one of your clients or someone you work with. They can absolutely give you a letter of recommendation. So that is something that's in the same situation as if you can't get a letter of recommendation from your boss. Who do you go to? So it's definitely fine to get, if you're self-employed, if you can get a letter of recommendation from either someone you deal with as a client or someone that you work with in the business environment. Another good question, do admissions committees like to see work experiences before education on resumes? And I would say if you think it is absolutely relevant. So if you have done an internship that you think is a great internship that you think would add benefit to your resume, absolutely we would want to see it. Do we want to see that you were a lifeguard over the summer? Probably not. So, again, you have to kind of judge and see what the difference is as far as the types of work experiences you have. Because if it is a great, relevant business job you had before, that would absolutely be very relevant. Okay, question, does a strong recommendation make any difference in round 3? I would actually say a strong recommendation makes a difference in any round. Again, the round is kind of irrelevant because what you want to do is present the best application possible. So whatever round you are applying for, you definitely want to have a good recommendation. I wouldn't say it makes any special difference in any round, but in all rounds, you always want to present the best application forward that is possible. So good recommendations always make a difference no matter what round you are applying in. Do admissions committees have access to military records if one was medically discharged? No, we do not. That is something we do not have access to. So, you know, that is something if you cared to share with us or thought that was something that mattered, you could share with us. But no, we do not have access to military records. Good questions. Okay, another question. How long should a resume typically be? What I would say, typically, a resume should typically be 1 page long. If you feel there is a need to go a little longer, that's probably okay, but we are not looking for resumes, especially if you're out of school, you know, anywhere from, 3 to 7 years and you're applying for an MBA. Typically a 1 page resume is what we are looking for, and that is pretty consistent across all programs. Okay, we're getting some good GMAT questions now. Do multiple GMAT scores, 5 exams with upward trends and a strong message to the admissions committee? We will, as far as GMAT scores go, we take, it depends on the school. Now, the University of Arizona will take your highest score. Some schools may average scores together. It just depends on the school again. I would say 5 exams is probably a little excessive in taking a GMAT exam. I would say probably 3 is about the max I would suggest. Unless you think there is really something that you can do very different to, shoot your score up, then, taking more, 3 at the most is probably enough. Again, it's hard to say. It depends on the school because the schools view GMAT scores very differently. But, if they take the highest score, it's not going to hurt you by any means to take multiple tests. But, statistics have shown over the years that really after about 3, there really isn't a significant difference, in your GMAT scores. Another question on work experience. I'm donating to a lot of charities and do some volunteering. Shall I put this on my CV and how? Again, anything that you think that is going to help your application is fine for you to put on your resume. Now, don't put that in lieu of work experience. That is something, volunteering in charities, that is something maybe, again, if it's not really professional work experience, that may be an opportunity to add to an essay question. A lot of schools will have optional essays. So if you feel by presenting your work experience and the essays questions that were asked, you are not able to share that, then that may be a good place to use an optional essay to talk about your charities, volunteering, and some of the things you feel that are important. That could make a better case for your admissions to a program. Okay, question, if I come from a technical background, how should I make my work experience relevant to what the business school is looking for? I guess that I'm not quite sure, for what the business school is looking for, because the business schools look for all types of backgrounds. We encourage that. So we are looking for people with technical backgrounds. We are looking people from liberal arts. We are looking people from economics. We are looking people from engineering. So that doesn't, by any means, a technical background does not put you at a disadvantage at all when you're applying for a business school. What you want to do, again, with a technical background is try to, if you were a leader of a technical team on a project, on a redesign project, you want to try to put in some of those leadership skills that you have done. But by all means, the technical background does not discount you from any MBA program. Again, we are looking for all types, and you are definitely value added in the classroom. So just think of those ways that you can quantify if you worked on projects, if you saved money, if you, the system you were developing, increased production, things like that, that can help with your resume for the business school. Okay, I have had different supervisors and seniors with whom I have worked with. I cannot really think of anyone who knows me the best. What should I do? Well, that is a good question, and really that's going to be a personal choice for you. Again, it's an important decision, but you've had different supervisors you had, so which one, which one can speak to your abilities the best? So maybe this is some of what you do is you take the opportunity to sit with the people and tell them what you want to do, what you're going to business school, and get the feedback from them, what they think, how it is, and then you can judge if you think that person would be a good recommender for you. If you have many people, that's actually not a bad thing. If you have a lot of choices to choose from, that can help you because, if you're applying to multiple business schools, maybe you can, a couple of them can do recommendations for one school, and then someone can do one for a different school. So it's not a bad thing to have many supervisors or bosses, but really it's going to be a personal choice which one you think can give you the best recommendation. Okay, another question. Who do you get recommendations from if you're looking for a career shift post-MBA, like from IT to marketing? It's not that we would look for someone from marketing to give you a recommendation. Remember, we're looking for people who know you that work in your current business situation. So if you're in IT and your bosses are in IT, we don't expect you to go to the marketing person and try to get a letter of recommendation. We want to talk to someone who, or not talk to, but we want a letter from someone who knows you in your current work situation. So someone who can talk about how you work, what you can bring to the program. So if you're in IT, we would probably fully expect it from your supervisor in the IT. We're not looking for a recommendation for the area you want to go into, but from your current situation. That's a good question. Another question. I had my own clinical practice, so can I get a letter from a patient or my assistant? We probably do not want any letters of recommendation from a subordinate or a patient. We would probably look for someone, again, what we're looking for is someone who is at least a peer, so someone that's on the same level as you. Maybe if you have a clinical practice, are there people you deal with as far as vendors that can give you a letter of recommendation? But typically not looking for a letter of recommendation for someone that works underneath you as an assistant or someone you manage or a patient. So more in the areas of someone that's either above you or at least a peer, the same level as you, someone you deal with, a vendor or a client that you can deal with would be a better choice for a letter of recommendation than an assistant. When should I request for recommendations if I am targeting to apply for round 2? It's really never too early. What you want to do is, give them plenty of time. You do not want to go with the letters of recommendation and say, okay, I need this in 2 weeks. So the more time you give them, the better. Even if you're applying in round 2, even if you're applying in round 3, if you give them plenty of time, it's going to be much easier for them to provide letters of recommendation. So again, it's not a timing issue. The timing issue would come into play if you don't give them enough time. It's not a bad thing to give them too much time. Okay, these are a lot of great questions regarding work experience, letters of recommendation, everything else. Again, if you have questions on any other parts of the application, I am very happy to answer them because, again, I want to keep you as informed as possible. Okay, good. Another question. What does the admission committee do to verify details provided by the candidate, mainly the truthfulness of the work, college recommendations, extracurricular activities, etc.? Really, that's a good question, and that's going to be schools do different things. Some schools will call, employers and verify Some will check on transcripts in schools. It just depends on the school. There's varying levels and degrees of what they do to check on your your letters, your credentials, things like that. So really the best advice is be honest. Do not put anything on there that you cannot back up or talk to. So because you never know, what verifications are being done. So if you complete, everything truthfully, then there are no issues and there's nothing you have to worry about it. Here's a question: does Eller, University of Arizona, accept GRE scores for the MBA? And what is the average? We would accept them on a case-by-case basis. If you are simply applying for the MBA program, our preference is for you to take the GMAT exam. However, if you are a dual degree student and applying to a master's program and have already taken the GRE, then we would probably look at your GRE score. So again, our preference is the GMAT if you are applying for an MBA program. However, it is a case-by-case basis. Mainly, though, if you are looking at dual degree, where we look at your GRE score. Another question: do admissions committee value on-the-job certifications? Example: project manager, professional, PMP. Another good example, this is CPA, and absolutely we value that. Any credential or certification that you have that can add to the value of your application as you applying for the business school is certainly something that is valued. So any professional certification you have, PMP, CPA, certified financial planner, anything like that that you have speaks to you the value of you as a candidate and something we would look at. So these are great questions for sure. If my long-term goal is to start up a firm in my home country, would that backfire on me because I'm not open to global opportunities and cannot contribute globally? Absolutely not. Again, we are not, the purpose of the MBA is not to tell you what to do. Our job is to help you get there. So as long as we know, again, this is something that can, that we're looking for all types of people with all different situations. There are several people in our current program who work in family businesses that are just going back to work there. There's people who want to go back to their country and start up a business. So we are not here to tell you what to do, and we are not here to, pigeonhole you into any certain type of situation or any type of business. So what we're here to do is help you succeed in your goals. So the best advice I would give to you is simply make sure those goals are known to us so you know ahead of time, and then we can help you achieve them the best way possible. Okay, good questions, everyone. Let me see, hold on. Here's a follow-up question that says, my previous supervisor knows me the best but has moved to another company. Is it okay to still mention them for my recommendation? It absolutely is. We do not, if it's a former supervisor that is now working with a different company, that is totally fine. It doesn't have to be a supervisor that you currently have. Because again, we understand that sometimes you can't ask your current supervisor for the recommendation. So if you have a former supervisor that knows you, that is absolutely fine to use them for a recommender, and actually someone that is great because they did know you in a supervisory role. How beneficial is LinkedIn? Do admissions committees view a candidate who has a LinkedIn profile differently for someone who does not? I would say I don't view them. I don't think many people view them any differently. All I would say is, as far as LinkedIn, make sure your information, again, is accurate and correct. Because if anyone is looking up on LinkedIn, you just want to ensure that the information out there is accurate and correct. But I don't think anyone will penalize you if you do not have a LinkedIn profile. Can a low GPA be compensated by a good GMAT score, at least to a certain extent? Well, it could be, yes. Again, it depends on the school, depends on your profile. again, the GPA and GMAT are just 2 parts of your total application. But a good GMAT score can, for sure. I wouldn't say it totally compensates for, a good GMAT score does not totally compensate for a low GPA, but it does help us understand that you do have potential and can maybe handle the, the course material. So if you do have a low GPA, that may be one way to compensate it. But again, those are just parts of the application process. Those are just 2 of the things that are considered. Question, is it mandatory that letters of recommendation be furnished at the time of submitting the application? For example, before the application deadline. That may depend, again, on the school, but most MBA programs, including ours, we usually will look for your application to be complete before we review it. If we ask for 2 letters of recommendation, we may start reviewing it with 1. But for the most part, applications are usually reviewed when the application is complete, which means all parts of your application, including your letters of recommendation, have been received. So that's why you want to ask early for your letters of recommendation and give them plenty of time to do them so that they will be there in time for the admissions committee. Okay, should we add certifications such as online MOOC from courses provided by Stanford, Duke, and other universities online but are not verified? Again, it depends. It depends on if you feel that adds value. So if it adds value to your application, feel free to add it. Again, it's got to add value, though. If you think this helps your process as far as your application or what you're looking for, it's fine to add it. If you do not think it adds value, do not just give us a list of 20 courses that you have taken online. It needs to add value. So that's what you need to decide. If it adds value to your application, it's fine to add it. If it doesn't add value, then it's probably something we don't need to see. Okay, I don't have any new questions at this time, but I encourage you, if there are any parts of the application, any other parts of the application, if you have questions on, any questions regarding the admissions process, I would be free to answer them. So, feel free to ask other questions. Remember, again, you have this opportunity. I'm the Director of Admissions here at the University of Arizona, so this is a good chance for you to ask a director questions regarding the application process and things that are important. So again, feel free to ask me anything regarding the application process. Okay, question, is there a separate deadline for submitting the letters of recommendation? No, there is not a separate deadline. The deadlines we put out there, when we put a deadline out on an application, that is the deadline for the application to be complete. So those deadlines, when you see deadline, first, second, third round deadline, where those deadlines are, that's for the entire application. There are not separate deadlines just for one part of the application. So those deadlines do include letters of recommendation. So again, to the point earlier, that's why you want to start early with your recommenders. You want to give them plenty of time in order to fill those forms out for you. Tips on highlighting leadership skills in your essay and resume. The first thing I would say about in your resume, again, quantify. If you're a leader, you want to say how many people you led, what you accomplished. That will talk about your leadership skills, what role you played. Were you the team lead? Did you have a subcommittee lead? Again, give us as many as many things as possible that let us, quantify what type of leadership skills you have. As far as essays, again, that will kind of depend on the essay question. On any essay, the thing you want to do is make sure you answer the question that is being asked on the application. Do not just start talking about leadership if that's not the way the situation was framed. So what you want to do is make sure you answer the question asked by the school, and if there is a leadership component to that, then answer it. But again, a great way to do that is to talk about, again, quantify your topics, quantify your leadership. If you led a team, how many were on the team? What did you accomplish? How much money did you save? What was the result? Things like that will help, increase your, show us what your leadership skills you possess. Is it okay to start off the story for the career goals essay? You have a limited number of characters usually for your essays, so I would probably not start off with a story unless it was extremely relevant. Again, we're looking for you to answer the essay question. Unless your story is very relevant to that essay question, I would not be telling a story because, again, it shows how you follow directions, what we're asking you. If we're asking you a question, we want you to answer that question. And, again, it just goes with following the directions and, making sure the information is conveyed regarding that question. So, again, unless it is really very relevant, I would probably not start off with a story. Okay, I have a question here. I am an international applicant. A U.S. MBA will normally cost an Indian candidate a lot of money. In my case, much more than my annual income. So how do I make sure school is a safe investment in terms of a job? Well, it's a good question. It's a great question. I understand it. What you want to do, there's definitely a return on investment you need to look for. So a couple things I would do is I would look at the profile of the school. I would first see how much the schools cost. How much are you going to invest in a U.S. MBA? How much will it cost? Every school has an estimated cost of attendance. There's a wide range in cost of attendance from schools. On which everyone will list. So, it varies from, I don't even want to give you dollars, but there's a huge discrepancy in the cost of school. So the first thing you do is do your research and find out what these schools are cost. The next thing I would do is look at the career center from the school and find out what types of salaries and what types of positions the students from the school are attaining. Because what that will do is that will show you, okay, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars, and this is the type of job I can expect, and what is my payback time in order to, recoup that. Another thing to look at is scholarship potential. Do schools offer merit scholarships or any type of aid to help you pay for the program? Because many schools do. Actually, at the University of Arizona, 90% of our students here that applied to the University of Arizona received some type of financial scholarship last year, some merit scholarship. So, between the cost of the school, the types of jobs and the salaries the students are getting, and the scholarships that are available, between those three things, they can definitely help you decide if, coming to school in the U.S. is something that would be beneficial for you. Good question. Are there any other questions regarding parts of the application process or, just making a decision in general? Okay. Question, will you be able to get a good GMAT score through self-study? Well, if you are a good self-studier, absolutely. If you're not, then probably not. That is something, you really have to, sit back and think about with yourself. How do you learn best? The GMAT is not an exam. If you can only take it one time, that is great. What I would say is whatever works for you best as far as studying. Do you study better by yourself, self-studying? Do you study, do you have to do an online class? Do you have to do an in-person class? Everyone learns differently, but whatever way you think will work best for you is how you need to study. Do not take the easiest way. Do not take the cheapest way. Use the way that will benefit you the most, because what you want to do is get a great score the first time so you don't have to worry about taking it multiple times. Okay, good question. If I was an applicant from an information technology background applying in round 3, what is the main factor that schools look for in an applicant that would make them different, fit for the class? By round 3, classes are starting to kind of round out. We're filling it up. So, it kind of, again, it really depends on the program, what they're looking for. What I tell everyone is, all schools look for all different people, whether they're IT, engineering, whatever they are. So, what you want to do, again, is submit the best application possible. So regardless of what your background is, again, it starts, it's doing research on the school. What is the school's strengths? What do they look for? If you're concerned about, applying in round 3, having an IT background, send an email to the admissions director and ask them if that is an issue. But again, all schools are different. They look for all different backgrounds, so it should not be an issue unless, the school has has a great deal of IT applicants already in their pipeline. So that's maybe the only thing that deters from it. But if there is an issue and you do have a question, I would definitely, email the director and just ask them, tell them your situation, and ask them what they think. Okay, does one need to have the physical GMAT scorecard to apply for round 2? We need you, no matter what round it is, we need you to have GMAT send us the scores directly. So it's not so much, we need the physical scorecard, but whatever school you're applying to and whatever round, you need to tell GMAT to send the score reports to us. All schools will need official score reports from GMAT in order to process your application. So again, it's irrelevant of the round. No matter what round you're in, we need official score reports from GMAT. How will my grammar punctuation errors made by my recommender affect my application? Especially if you're an international candidate, we understand that. That is not something that we typically will hold against an applicant because we understand that. So as long as the message is conveyed, we're not going to look for, exact grammar and punctuation errors. We're not here to grade your recommenders, grammar and English. We're here to, see what information they provide. So as long as the information they provide is something we can understand and conveys your message, then that is something that, we are fine with. Okay, these are great questions. We're running towards the end, so you have a few more minutes if you have any other questions. These are great. Is there any other parts of the application process or admissions or that anyone has questions on? Because now, again, we have about less than 10 minutes, so now is your time to ask these. All right, since there's no more questions, I want to thank all of you a little bit, about our program at the university, Eller. Specializations, we have 2 highly ranked specializations. We are ranked number 4 specialty ranking in MIS for our MBA program, and number 11 in entrepreneurship. So those are 2 great specialties. One thing I love to tell people about the University of Arizona is we have a very small class size. We have about 50 students per class. So you get great one-on-one attention. You get to know all your classmates. It's very much a family atmosphere. Everyone works together. There's a lot of team projects that you get to work on. So, please check us out. It's a great learning environment for people who, want to have that specialized attention. A couple more quick questions here. How does the process work? Do we first have to submit the applications, first email the recommender, and then school shoots out an email? It depends. So basically the process of recommending. It will depend on the school. Most schools have a process. What we do is you give us the emails and names, and we send them an email with the form to fill out. It could be different at different schools, but that is pretty common. You just furnish us the information of the names and emails, and then we send them to your recommenders for them to fill out. So that's a pretty typical process, but some may be different in different schools. What do admissions committees exactly look for in personal statements? Again, we want to know your story. We want to know, what you've done while you're going to business school. What you plan to get out of it. So again, the more information you can share with us on why you're doing this, what decision you're making, the better off it is. Can you highlight the jobs your students Eller grads get? That's it's very broad. A lot of people will go into consulting that work here. We have some people that go into the healthcare industry and work in consulting. Again, with our specializations in MIS and also entrepreneurship, we have a lot of people that will go into technical fields that come here for MIS and entrepreneurship. A lot of people, what they do is they don't immediately graduate from Eller and start their own company. But what they do is they gather the skills necessary that know down the road how to develop a business plan, how to market, how to raise capital, things like that, to start their own business. But it's a very, I encourage you to look at our website, under the career services section. That'll give you a better idea of companies that hire here, types of positions they get, where they go, and that can help, help you make a decision about Eller. It is about time to wrap up now. I really appreciate all your questions. Again, if you have any other information or questions regarding the University of Arizona, please feel free to look on our website, get my contact information, or shoot us an email. So again, thank you for your time. And again, I wish you all the very best of luck in your application process and your MBA decisions. Thank you very much.